In this video, I'm talking about debt reduction. It's how to eliminate your debt, how to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. We're not talking about how you got there, where you need to adjust your budget, any of that. At this point, we're going to assume that you have some extra cash flow and you're interested in devoting it towards getting debt free. We're going to do this in two different segments. In the first segment, I'm going to talk you through the strategy. I'm going to keep it brief, and if you want to be off and running from there, perfect. In the second segment, I'll talk you through it a bit slower while building an Excel so that you could replicate it at home if you wanted to build one yourself and follow your debt pay down. Either way, the goal here is to get debt free, reclaim your financial freedom, and we wish you best of luck. So let's talk through the strategy. The first step is to list your debts. Write down the balances and the interest rate for each of them and sort them from highest interest to lowest. The reason for this is important, so I want to take a second to explain. The interest rate is your cost of borrowing that money. So to minimize your cost, you want to pay off the highest interest first. Make your minimum payments to all the debt on your list except for the highest. That's going to be your target debt. Redirect cash flow to that until that one is eliminated. At that point, move to the next debt and repeat the process. You're going to experience a snowballing effect here because each time you pay down one debt to zero, you're going to have more cash flow freeing up to go to the second, third, and so forth. Continue to repeat this process until you get debt free. So if you want the concept and that's what you're here for, you've got it. Now it's time to put it into practice. If you want to get into more detail, then we're going to dive into an Excel where we go through the math. You can build it and follow it on your own. Best of luck to you. So in our example, we have someone who has racked up 3 cards. First one is a store card, balance of $5,600, APR of 23%. This is a card that you're at the register, you're checking out, and the clerk says to you, would you like to save 15% today? Or whatever the promotion is. If you sign up for one of our cards, then you'll do just that. So you sign up, you don't pay the balance off, maybe you continue to use it, and you're paying interest at that point. Then we have a Visa, 19.25% APR, $3,400 balance, and we have an American Express with 18% APR and $18,800 balance. We have sorted the cards from highest APR to lowest. APR stands for annual percentage rate, and this is the cost of borrowing money. So the higher the APR, the more expensive it is for you to borrow those dollars. If we look at the cost in terms of actual dollars in our example, we can take the balance, multiply it by the APR, and that shows us the annual interest cost. And if you're building a sheet similar to this at home, I'll do that again. And one more time, we'll take the balance, multiply it by the APR. So to carry this balance across all 3 cards, this is the annual interest cost. It's substantial. Let's turn that into a monthly figure because when it comes to budgeting, a lot of times we're thinking in months. I'm just taking the annual cost and dividing by 12. And then this minimum payment, so we're assuming minimum payment is going to be equal to 2% of the balance. And what we have seen is a minimum payment is either percentage based like this, and 2% is a very common one. It can be sometimes 3 or 3.5%. We've also seen where it's a fixed dollar amount. So it will say $35 a month or $50 a month is your minimum payment. But 2%, because it's common out there, this may be something that you're seeing yourself. So to get this process really rolling, what we have to do is be able to commit some type of extra monthly cash flow. In our example, we're going to assume that you can come up with $150 a month. Now, this number may be much lower than what you can actually come up with. It may be much higher, but the key is we have to be able to throw some extra dollars into this equation to accelerate this payoff. We're going to show you where to put those dollars so that you can get these balances paid to zero as efficiently as possible. Just a brief comment on where these dollars could come from. It's going to be either on the revenue side or on the budgeting and expense side. So that might mean picking up some extra hours, picking up an extra shift, a side hustle or some type of gig that creates additional cash flow. Or on the budgeting side, it could be something like not buying your coffee out and making it at home. That's one that gets beat up on frequently. It could be a couple dinners a month that you eat at home instead of going out to a restaurant. Whatever changes you want to make, the key is coming up with something. So we're going to make our minimum payments on all cards except for the card with the highest APR. We're going to target that card, which starts as the store card, to be paid to zero. So our minimum payment on the Visa remains at $68. Our minimum payment on the Amex remains at $376. Here, we're going to take our minimum payment of $112, and we're going to put every dollar that we can come up with into that. And I'm showing you the math in case you want to build something like this and track your own progress. So you're going to pay $262 a month on the store card. Let me show you what that additional money does in terms of accelerating that pay down. So here's our store card. If you're just making the minimum payment, I'll scroll down so you can see this. We have months in column B. We have years over here in J. And we're looking at 168 months, right at 14 years to get this balance paid to zero. Now, how long it would take with a minimum payment is going to depend on the interest rate and the balance on your card. But you can see it's quite a while. Let's put our extra 150 on this card every month. And I'll briefly scroll down. You can see now in the 28th month, this balance gets to zero. So just over 2 years. Let's go back and track that. So we're 28 months into this. We made our monthly payment of $262. Now what we can do is we're still going to be paying out the same amount because it's the extra monthly cash flow plus our monthly payments that got us to our total payment of $706 on all three cards. But the key is now this one is a zero because the balance is gone. So what we've done is we've freed up space so that we can make our minimum payment. So there's our 68. We now have created space because this minimum payment is gone. And we still have the same $150 a month that we decided we would come up with because we're serious about getting out of debt. So we're still paying out $706 a month. One card's gone, and we're now going to be able to pay $330 into the Visa, which had the next highest APR. And let's look at the impact of that. So with $68 a month going in, on this card, we're looking at 102 months over 8 years to pay it down. We're going to add additional monthly payment, and to recap where that's coming from, it's now going to be the extra $262 that we have freed up by paying off the store card. And let's look at the impact of this. 12 months later, 1 year, and this balance is at zero. I'll show you where the total is, and I'll put that over on our other sheet here. So we take our initial minimum payment, the amount we freed up of $262, we add them together, and that's $330 a month that we've been paying. So right here, and that's 12 months later that we have this card at zero. Now we get to the largest balance in our example, and I want to emphasize we did not pay off the smallest balance first. We did not target the largest balance. We're sorting it based on APR. That's so key because we see a number of different strategies of how to get debt paid down to zero. The only way mathematically to get it paid to zero the fastest is going to be putting extra money towards the highest APR. So if you started by paying off this balance, which is the smallest first, you would not get to zero as quickly because that spread in interest, you're saving yourself 19.25 on this card versus 23% of savings for every dollar you paid in the first card in our example. So please sort them by APR, pay them in that order. And here we are on the third card. Now get to put a nice zero in for the Visa, and we have freed up more room in our monthly cash flow. So we're going to be, I'm going to get rid of this and show you where it comes from. We have our minimum payment of $376. We have our $330 we were just paying towards the Visa, which is comprised of the initial minimum payment from our store card, our extra $150 in cash flow, and the initial payment, minimum payment on our Visa, which is now gone. So we're still paying out $706 a month. Just the initial commitment of $150 has gotten us to this point. Let's see what $706 now does for the pay down on the American Express compared to the minimum payment of $376. We have our $376 going in. It's a big balance and takes 94 months, almost 8 years to pay that balance down. We have our extra monthly payment, which again comes from the difference between these $330, which is generated solely off of the cash flow from the store card and Visa that have now been eliminated. We take that $330 and we direct that towards the Amex. The balance is now paid off in 35 months, just under 3 years of targeting that card. And our monthly payment at that time is $706. So by following this strategy, what we're doing is we are minimizing the amount of interest you pay out over time, and we're maximizing the amount of money that will go towards reducing these principal balances. When you're paying off the first card, it can feel slow. There's not a whole lot of compounding or snowballing that is taking effect at that point. It's just 1 month after the other, taking this balance to zero. Once you get that first card to zero, it's going to give you this nice uplifting feeling, because now you'll really start to see the acceleration when you move to the second card. By the time you get to the third, and look, we've seen scenarios where there are 5, 6, 7, 8 different debts out there. So you're going to see that payoff just continue to accelerate each time you wipe out a debt. So if your first balance, if your highest APR balance is the highest, still we want you to pay that off first. We know it's going to take a while to get it to zero, but follow this process. The math doesn't lie. The way to get this to zero is pay off the highest APR, then move to the next highest. All the while, you'll want to continue making minimum payments on outstanding debt, with the exception of the one you're currently targeting. All right, we hope that this helps you. It's time to get to work. Remember that first card, it's going to move a little slower, but beyond that, you'll be well on your way to getting debt free. Just stay committed, keep making those payments, and it's time to get debt free.